Everyone says wholesaling is the ultimate no money down real estate strategy, but here's what nobody talks about. Why do so many wholesalers go completely broke within their first year? I'm Esteban Andrade, and over the past 4 years, I've worked with over 700 real estate investors and wholesalers, helping them generate more than $30 million in revenue. And I've seen the same pattern destroy businesses over and over again. It's not that there aren't deals out there. The problem is that most wholesalers are getting killed by 10 specific cash flow problems they don't even know exist. Here's the brutal truth. If your cost per deal is over 50% of your net assignment fee, if you're only making cash offers when you could be doing novations and wholesales, and if you're taking 45 to 75 days to convert contracts to cash, you're one hiccup away from going broke. But here's the good news. In the next 12 minutes, I'm gonna walk you through the exact 10 cash flow killers that destroy wholesaling businesses, and more importantly, I'll show you my 90-day turnaround system that can fix a broken wholesaling business in just 3 months. I'll give you the broke versus banked calculator that shows you exactly if you'll run out of cash in the next 60 days, the offer matrix that turns one seller into 4 different exit strategies, and the Dispo system that my clients use to move contracts in 24 to 48 hours instead of weeks. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which of these 10 killers is destroying your business and have the step-by-step plan to fix it. So if you're tired of the feast or famine cycle and want to build a wholesaling business with predictable cash flow, keep watching. Most wholesalers think they're making money when they see their gross assignment fees, but there's a hidden math problem that's silently bleeding them dry. And it's the #1 reason why 80% of wholesalers fail in their first year, the unit economics death trap. I'm about to show you a simple formula that will tell you if your wholesaling business is already dead. You just don't know it yet. Here's what I call the broke versus banked calculator. Most wholesalers brag about their $15,000 assignment fee, but they never calculate their true cost per deal. Let me break this down for you. If your cost per lead is $150 and it takes you 20 leads to get one contract and you close 70% of your contracts, your cost per deal is $4,286. Now, if your average net assignment fee after refunds, concessions, and operating costs is $5,000, you only have a $714 buffer. One missed closing wipes out your entire profit. I've seen wholesalers spending $20,000 a month on marketing, getting 10 contracts, but only netting $2,000 per deal after all costs. They're literally working for free and don't even realize it. The benchmark you need to hit, your net gross profit should be at least 2 times your cost per deal for sustainable scaling.
This is the first metrics and numbers that we should be able to actually track. And we have to have targets in order to get to those numbers. If we don't have targets, we don't know where we're going. How can we reverse engineer the other numbers that we need? So the first one is knowing what's your cost per acquisition or cost per deal, what's your revenue per deal, right? And obviously knowing your cash conversion cycle. But let's say, for example, the target cost per deal percentage of net assignment fee, which is the healthy acquisition cost of percentage of net fee, would be, for example, 40%. Let's just say it's an example. We could always do 30% or whatever, which is the percentage of what the net assignment fee is, the percentage what's going to be that cost per acquisition. So, for example, if it is, let's say your net assignment fee is $10,000, your cost per acquisition, as in like healthy wise, could be $4,000, right? And here, for example, our max cost per lead warning would be $300. Depending on the market, it's going to be a different cost per lead, so you have to study that market, whether you're doing nationwide or whether you're doing local. Different markets, different cost per lead. So for instance, San Francisco, it's okay to have about 300 to 400 cost per lead, while a place like in Michigan, I mean, you could be having $100 to $200 cost per lead. Now it depends on the marketing channel as well. Maximum cost per deal warning. This is just for alerting, and minimum runway per week, let's just say it's 6. So we have some inputs, right? We have the input of the cost per deal, cost per lead, let's say $150 cost per lead. Leads to appointments, how many of those, from those leads, how many go to appointments? 50% is a healthy number. You could also do 40%. Appointments go to offers. So from those appointments, how many we actually pitched and how many we actually get to an offer. So let's just say, for example, they all show up, or 65% of show up, we all do offers to. So 65%, it's a good show rate. Potentially you can make it higher, you can make it better. If you're doing like in-person appointments, then it's going to be a higher show rate. Offer to contract, for instance, so that how many of these appointments or how many of these offers that you gave a pitch to, right, and that you offered something, how many of them closed? 25% for in-person appointments is pretty good. 20% for phone call appointments, that's okay. The goal is to be over 25%, 30%. That's something that will be super good. But 25% is okay. 20% okay. I've spoken with many wholesalers, and 25% is an okay number based on the appointments that you actually give an offer to, right? And contracts to close. So this differentiates between being local or nationwide. So local, 65%, contract to close is okay. But if you're doing nationwide, for example, like Nick Perry teaches, or many other gurus out there, 30 to 50% is a good contract to close. So you have to put that number. And an average assignment fee, let's just say $20,000, which would be the revenue per deal, ultimately, gross revenue per deal. A lot of people start very small, but reality is that you gotta take care of three things: getting more deals, getting more revenue per deal, so those bigger deals, and just having consistency and frequent deals. Next one is any refund and concessions or whatever, expected discounts, price cuts, whatever. Operations, cost per deal. This includes potentially TC, Dispo splits, whatever, tools per closed deal, whatever. You can make it over $1,000 if you want to. And then monthly overhead. Let's just say you do have a monthly overhead, which is rent, salary, software. Maybe you have very low overhead, then you just change this number to like a very low overhead. You would have to be keeping track of this in your accounting, in your P&L, and all the different things. Cash on hand, let's just say you started with $50,000. You could be starting with $20,000, whatever it is that you have in credit. Cash conversion cycle, let's just say, is 60 to 92 days, depending on whether you choose Google or Facebook. And then weekly marketing budget would be, let's just say, $3,000. You can always, change it to, let's say, $1,500 weekly and so on. And that's completely okay. And weekly payroll, let's say you just have that. The outputs based on this, if you do have these numbers that I just put here, these are mock-up numbers, then you have lead to contract rate, it would be at 8.13%. I'm going to tell you how this is going to differentiate in our RR calculator. But leads needed per contract will be about 12. Leads per closed deal will be about 18, which is okay. And marketing cost per deal will be about $2,800. Net assignment after refund, let's just say, ends up being $18,000. Net gross profit per deal would be about $14,000. Break-even assignment fee would be about $818. So that's a minimum average fee to avoid losing money. And the break-even assignment fee, which is the cost per deal plus the operation cost, that's about $3,640, right? Minimum average fee to avoid losing money. And ultimately CAC or deal percentage of net fee would be about 15.78%. Revenue per lead, weekly burn. These are other numbers that you could also help you determine whether you're having a healthy or unhealthy numbers. Now, you should be able to keep track of all these numbers, but the most important thing is to actually have some sort of projections per month. Let's say you do have projections for this month of September, right? Or month of October. And the lead source, it ends up being, let's say, Facebook. Your monthly spending, about ad spend, at minimum at start, it will be $3,000. I suggest that you start with that and then increase it, especially for local markets. If you're doing for nationwide, then you can do much less than that. Number of leads, let's just say you generate 20 during that month. Let's say 14 appointments you get from that. The lead to appointment rate would be 70%. Cost per lead, $150. Just to, worst case scenario, cost per appointment ends up being $214. A number of offers that you do give, let's just say in this case, let's just do 10 offers. All right. Lead to offer rate, or let's just say, for example, out of the 20 let's just keep it at 14 that you do give an offer. A number of contracts that you get out of the $13,000 could be 2, and one closed deal would be, giving you a cost per deal about $3,000, which is an average of what we see across marketing channels. And cost per contract would be $1,500, which is okay. But I've seen clients having cost per contract of $500 to $600, $700, $800, which is okay doing the numbers. As long as your closing ratio after contract is good too, means that your disposition and your offer systems are also good, because you're able to actually take this to a finish line. It doesn't matter if you do wholesale cash or you do novations, right? Revenue per deal, let's just say for example, if we keep it, again, we got to get more deals, bigger deals. So if we keep it at a higher revenue per deal on average, let's just say it ends up being $22,000, that gives us a much better return at the end of the day, right? And then the other targets or projections, we should write it down. Now, ultimately, if a goal is to actually have your cost, your deal size to be bigger, in order to get to $100,000, for example, as a goal, then you need about 5 of these deals to close. And contract to close ratio, let's just say it's at 65% on a local market or doing wholesaling and so on. What if you make it bigger by actually doing novations? Novations typically have a higher closing ratio because you're dealing with retail buyers. So you would just mix it up. You would be able to actually put a better conversion percentage by mixing up your offers that you give to your sellers and the way that you do your exit strategy. So the deals that you got to lock up or get contracts would be about 8. Fallout would be about, let's say, 3, right? So essentially, if you're having the percentage of successful contracts going to deals, that means that you got to lock up 8 in order to get 5 to actually close. And that month, you got to be able to generate 96 leads, and leads per deal will be about 12 at a cost per lead about $150, which means that the marketing cost would be about $4,400, and estimated cost per deal will be about $3,000, and ROI per the deal would be about $700. So what if those numbers were worse? What if the leads per deal was, were just about, let's say, like our client Watson, 114 and 116. What if that you still will be able to be profitable? You still have a return of investment. So regardless of whether you choose to actually have lower numbers, right? As long as you're working on the 4 core things that I'm going to walk over, you're going to be good. So here, these are the 4 core things. Exit strategies or offers. So stop doing only cash deals. Start doing more novations, Sales skills and processes. So make sure that you polish your sales skills and processes. Have follow-up and nurturing systems and a great mindset. This is an ROI calculator that I walk our clients through. Let's say, for example, our service fee is $2,000 or $2,500. Let's just say, worst case scenario. Ad spend starts at $3,000. You increase your ad spend after 3 months by 20%. So you start increasing your ad spend after this. Then your average cost per lead is about $150. Let's just say your lifetime conversion, which is essentially what you're going to convert over time, is about 6.67 if it is 1 out of 15 leads, right? Cash conversion would be about 45 to 92 days, so averaging 60, let's just say. And total conversion after compounded conversion, which is a long-term conversion, and short-term conversion, which happens within the first month, it would be about 7.17% conversion rate. This, over time, will tell us that the beginning will be in reds, right in here. But as we grow and we start reinvesting back some of the money, you'll see that some of these red months turn into green months. So your total revenue will increase over time. And then here, as we put more ad spend, we'll generate more leads. Because based on these numbers, even though you're spending on ad spend and service fee, if you have an agency or you pay per lead, then you'll be able to still be positive after the cash conversion cycle. That's why it's so important to know these numbers. And then over time, you'll just generate a 3.6x return of investment. But what if numbers were better? What if the assignment fee was bigger? What if it was $22,000? Then that means that automatically by making your deals bigger, that you'll make more money. Like you're actually literally double your return of investment. So if you make your deals bigger by having innovations, having better buyers, a calculator, or buyers that would actually buy at your target profit, then do that. What if your cost per lead reduces just by a tiny bit? Let's just say your cost per lead does get to 120. That is a significant amount, but sometimes that's hard to do. So, but what if your conversion ratio actually ends up becoming better? So instead of 1 out of 15, you do close 1 out of 14, right? So that's about 7.14% in here as in lifetime conversion. That ends up giving you, a little bit more ROI. You saw that change right in there? Boom, from 6.21 to 6.68%. And those are the micro things that you should be able to do that move the needle forward slowly but surely. Exit strategies, sales skills, follow-up and nurturing systems, and a mindset, right? The bigger things that you should be able to do is like increase your assignment fee, reduce your cost per lead, even though, that's definitely challenging, but it's also spend more money. What if you're spending more money? Let's say you spend more money. Boom. You're spending more money, your ROI automatically goes bigger, right? If you're gonna cheap out, then expect that your returns are not gonna be as big as you need to. Now, obviously, we gotta be able to maintain the rest of the numbers, right? Cost per lead, qualified lead, and so on. Now, let's just say, for example, we don't have a strategy on like increasing the ad spend. 0% of ad spend increase. Automatically, your ROI also goes lower. You're not going to generate as much revenue over time as if you were having an actual increase in ad spend. So if you increase your ad spend over 20% after month 3, then you're going to be generating way more money as opposed to like just keeping it flat and cheaping out on ad spend. So there's different factors that you should be able to put together and have metrics that you should actually follow. But as long as you know your cost per deal, your revenue per deal, and your cash conversion cycle, you start reverse engineering the rest, okay? And then you go towards the funnel. You start breaking down the funnel in different pieces so that you can ultimately hold your sales manager accountable, your marketing manager accountable, whoever manages your marketing. And just make sure that you track everything in a spreadsheet every single day and so on, and the differences between channels and the percentage of conversion between channels as well, right? All of this will give you a good just view on the health of your business, because what gets tracked gets improved.
Here's a mistake that's costing wholesalers 40 to 60% of their potential deals. And it's so simple that most people don't even realize they're doing it. The single offer suicide. You're only making cash offers at a discount. That's it. But here's what the top 1% of wholesalers know. Sellers who don't accept deep discounts aren't bad leads. They're just mismatched offers. Let me show you the offer matrix that turns one seller into 4 different exit strategies. Low equity, behind on payments. That's a subject to deal. Clean condition, wants retail price. That's a novation or agent referral. Heavy distress, short timeline, that's your cash offer. Need some work, but good bones, that's a wholesale. I have clients who added novations to their business and immediately increased their ROI by 30 to 50% from the same leads they were already paying for.
This is called the offer matrix. And this is how some of our clients decide what is the seller that has a pain point, motivation, a desire to solve a problem, and ultimately move on from their house. What is the seller? How is the seller best be served? And there's a lot of offers out there that you can actually put together. The most popular ones right now this year would be cash wholesales or novations, right? You can always work with an agent as well and do listings, but let's just go over a few of the seller situations. Let's say seller situation number 1, high equity, heavy distress, fast timeline. Usually these are the best for cash deals, right? Well, they have high equity, they have heavy distress, but not every seller is distressed, but they're motivated. They also have a fast timeline. These are the lowest percentage that you could ever ask for, the best ones for sure. But there are only about 1 to 3% of these out there from all the people you're going to be talking to, or from all the sellers. But it's best for cash. You can still do novation. It's strong for wholesale. It's okay for sub 2 and seller finance. Ultimately, seller finance. It's okay for listing referrals. But the best one would be cash. We all know that. Why? Because there's speed plus price trade-off. So you ultimately prioritize this to VIP buyers. But this is the top 1 to 3%. But a lot of wholesalers are currently dying and their business is not thriving because they haven't realized how to actually go through the other ones. Let's say, for example, high equity, clean conditions, and wants retail. How do people actually deal with that? And a lot of people, even our clients, they handle this problem as if it's an actual problem, as opposed to trying to find an offer or a way creatively to solve this. So cash, it doesn't really fit. So only low offer only. So essentially the best one that you could potentially have for this one will be innovations. It's still very strong for wholesale. A lot of the clients that we have and friends that they do very well with wholesales in this. It's okay for sub to seller finance, and the best could potentially also be a list referral. But if you're able to monetize by doing innovation and doing a strong wholesale, well, you don't need to send it to the realtor unless you have realtors in your team. And I've seen a lot of realtor teams that are joining forces with wholesalers, or wholesalers that ended up hiring realtors in order to actually make money out of this. Think about it. How much of a percentage can you do from a listing? It could just think that every single lead that comes in could be an opportunity for $10,000, right? So notes would be net to seller framing, retail exposure with your resources, and then ultimately having a retail buyer ultimately. The next one would be about low equity behind on payments. So often for cash is not feasible, right? Because it's low equity behind on payments. But with novations, it's risky for the lender or HOA issues, right? So there's lender or HOA issues and potentially could not happen. With wholesale, it could be a weak scenario. And for sub 2 and seller finance, it could potentially fit. A lot of people that know sub 2 for where seller finance combine both, let's say for example pays Morby, would be able to use this type of situation for the advantage of using creative financing. This referral is very weak. So you either keep their loan, solve their arrears, or emphasize certainty to the seller, and you're able to find an offer for this person. The next one, low equity, clean condition, flexible timeline. Looks like a lot of people throw these leads in the trash. However, it could be good for novations, for wholesale. It's weak for cash. It's strong for sub to seller finance, and good for listing referrals. So which one are you going to choose? Are you going to leave this lead, throw in the trash, or ultimately become a problem finder, problem solver, and then monetize this? If you come to my company and I tell you I cannot do Google ads, but you do need to do Google ads because you're already doing Facebook, Instagram ads, I'm already losing money by not exploring the option of hiring an expert and making them explain me how to do Google ads, or me learning Google ads at the end of the day, or hiring someone that's going to be doing the Google ads for me, or me becoming an expert in Google ads. I'm just losing money, right? Obviously, through time, if you haven't mastered one, then you're going to be the master of none. So master definitely doing at least wholesale and cash, and then you'll be able to learn novations. But in 2025 and 2026, novations definitely moves the needle forward. So this is payment focused framing, structured terms, and having a pitch for creative. So the next one would be probate title complexity. Let's say the seller has that situation. With cash, it could work case by case. I've seen a lot of clients go through this. And novations, it would be paperwork heavy, but I know companies easy REI that ultimately will help you with that. And wholesale will be title dependent. So for sub-2 seller finance, it could be possible, but for listing referral, it is definitely a good one. Attorney, title co-approval, set expectations with the seller and work this out in your market. There's ways to do it. If you don't know how to work this out, go with someone that actually has done it in the past by asking in your mastermind coaching programs or the Facebook groups that people are actually engaging on, right? I can connect you with people that are doing this every single day. Now, tenant occupied, cash flow positive seller situation. So cash could be possible, novations could be possible, if wholesale is okay, sub to seller finance is strong, right? And listing referral is okay. So investor buyer pool, show cap rate / returns is something that you got to take a look at and be very strong on. Otherwise, whenever you have a tenant occupied, cash flow positive type of situation, you would be able, you can't have ultimately the best answer. You won't be able to monetize it the best way if you don't know your different possible situations. And I'm pretty sure there's other experts that know how to do this even better than me. Number 8 would be rural property and few comps. Ultimately with cash only works if there's a deep discount, obviously. Novations could be challenging. I know that Nick Parrott teaches this a lot, where there's going to be novations and you'll be able to essentially partner up with real estate agents or realtors in that area and find buyers, and then ultimately they sell it on the MLS. Wholesale will be the risky, and sub to seller finance would be possible. So there's obviously a smaller buyer pool, and then ultimately you have to make sure that you find an expert to figure out whether this works out for you or not, or go to a coaching program like the 7-Figure Cartel, or other coaching programs that they teach how to actually do innovation wide, where there's rural properties, few comps, and so on. And might not be the best lead possible, but still possible for you to actually monetize it. Remember that if you see a lead as an opportunity to make at least $10,000 every single time, that's the right mindset, because you'll find the solution, right? So this is the offer matrix that helps our clients make decisions.
There's a 2-minute window that determines whether you get the deal or your competition does, and most wholesalers are losing deals before they even know the lead exists. Harvard Business Review found that there's a 10 times drop in contact probability after just 5 minutes, but the average response time in our industry is 47 hours. This killer is called the speed to lead. Here's the golden rule: respond in under 2 minutes and you'll have an 80% higher connection rate than your competition. But it's not just about speed, it's about follow-up. It takes 7 to 11 touches to connect with motivated sellers, but most wholesalers stop after 2 or 3 attempts. I had a client who installed automated missed call textbacks and 30-day nurture sequences. Their conversion rate went from 2% to 8% overnight using the same leads.
And this is your 7-day speed to lead SOP. So let me just walk you through that right here, because a lot of you don't understand how crucial this is about speed to lead. How you have to have speed, because everything in life and the successful entrepreneurs, the successful people that they do take action, they know the importance of velocity, right? And ultimately, we want to do the same thing here whenever we're calling leads. So here's a few golden rules. One, you want to be able to have a less than 2-minute rule. So a human call attempt within 120 seconds. We hire inside sales agents in order to do this. Now, there's a lot of different work and development on different AI agents that you can actually potentially do. There's different AI agent platforms. I'm going to leave a few in the description for you to try. However, the only one I've seen work in this space so far has been Bulletproof, objection bulletproof.io. But that one it's still in development. It's owned by Steve Trang and Ian Ross. However, I end up hiring a remote Latino or a call center that would essentially help me with everything that is going on in a day-to-day basis, right? So that's how I take it. As soon as a lead comes in, they're calling the lead immediately within 2 minutes, maximum 5 minutes. I also do a 6 by 6 by 6 cadence, which means that we have 6 calls in the first 6 hours, back to back, 1, 2, 3, right? Back to back. So we call once, we call 2 times, we break the barrier or the filters of any type of airplane mode or any carrier filters and so on. We break that and we call it third time, and then we do a text message. There's an entire follow-up training that I created on this. And we do this daily for the first 6 days. The first week is the week where we pound them, we hammer them. This is the the hammering strategy whenever you start calling them the first week, because it's the first week where they're the hottest, right? They're recently opted in, whether that's from Google, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, you name it, or they went to the website. And there's always going to be a missed call protocol as well. So we're going to essentially text back with a calendar link, ultimately give them a potential value-driven proposition where we just trying to gauge and find out more about what prompted them to actually take action. And you can ask questions that ultimately start a conversation. Hey, just curious, what made you want to sell? Why is it that you're looking to sell? Or just curious, when is it that you're looking to sell cash? So this prompts ultimately missed calls, or telling them, hey, you're currently working on another deal or working with another customer, and you can create a missed call AI follow-up, call it like a system that, for example, if you call in, it will be talking with an AI person, or you would be sending a text message immediately and ultimately talking in text message. If you have a lead manager, an appointment setter, or VA, then just make sure that you train them so that they get to this person fast. Also make sure that you capture consent. So ultimately, in order to send SMS and emails, you got to make sure that you have consent in order to follow up with them. All of that is done in the lead form and so on, so that you can be the first touch, right? You can do the first touches and then consecutively do a sequence of touches. So day 0, minutes, 0 to 30 minutes. Ultimately, you would be sending text messages, emails, and so on. Remember the speed to lead sequence and so on. Make sure that you hammer them with actual value-driven proposition in your emails. Within the first 6 hours, you should have already attempted 2 pushes. Each push is about 3 dials in a row and so on, and alternating SMS. Try to do iMessage because that has a high response rate. There's different platforms like LinkUp or SendBlue that allows you to connect with different CRMs for iMessage, or just do a proper iMessage and then you customize the message. You customize the message by sending either a picture or a video. There's an entire video training that I created that talks about different ways to get a person to pick up the phone in my YouTube channel. Then within day 1 to 3, you're going to be sending value texts. You're going to be ultimately sending a customized follow-ups, maybe case studies and testimonials, and so on, to try to book an appointment. Make sure that there's sequence in here. And then, the first week will be a hammering week where you want to get a hold of them as much as possible. So I'll show you right here, for example. So this is essentially the golden rules. Write them down, make sure. And then that you have a actual system and sequence for the first week.
These first 3 killers alone destroy more wholesaling businesses than market crashes, but there are 7 more that are even deadlier. And the worst part, most wholesalers don't even know they exist until it's too late. The next 3 cash flow killers are what I call the silent assassins, because they kill your business slowly, and by the time you notice, you're already broke. The cash conversion cycle trap. Even profitable deals can bankrupt you, and it all comes down to a timing problem that most wholesalers never see coming. Wholesaling has what I call a lumpy cash cycle. Your expenses are daily, ads, payroll, office rent, but your closings pay out in 45 to 75 days. Here's the math that kills businesses. If your weekly burn rate is $10,000 and your cash conversion cycle is 60 days, you need $80,000 to $100,000 pre-funded just to survive. I've seen wholesalers with $50,000 in contracts under their belt go out of business because they couldn't pay their bills while waiting for closings. The fix? Collect larger, non-refundable earnest money from buyers, secure transactional funding, and stagger your ad budgets weekly instead of front-loading everything. The Dispo bottleneck. Most wholesalers think acquisition is the hard part, but here's what's really killing deals. And it happens after you get the contract signed. Contracts don't equal cash. Weak disposition equals dead inventory. I've seen wholesalers with 20 contracts that couldn't move a single one because they had no real buyer relationships. They were just posting in Facebook groups hoping someone would bite. Here's how the pros do it. Build a segmented buyer list by zip code, price range, and exit strategy. Score your buyers by speed, earnest money, close rate, and cooperation with title companies. Push for inspection window showings with earnest money due on day one. And here's a secret. Disposition is 50% of the wholesaling business, not 20% like most people think.
One Dispo system that you can follow is just tracking your buyers and your VIP buyers in sheets like this one. So here's an example of a buyer scorecard template. Let's say buyer number 1, John. We have their email, phone number, zip code, focus asset type. Let's say, for example, single family home, exit strategy that is preferred, flip, average EM, or earnest money deposit, EM speed in hours, close ratio, ultimately average days to close, capacity of deals per month. You figured that out with the buyer itself, and the title performance. We actually do a 1 of 5, and last closed deal, for example, with us, and they'll be part of some sort of tier of VIP buyers. So we have A, B, C. You can do type A plus, A minus, A whatever, and then just have notes on that buyer. You can always have a go high level CRM, buyer CRM, or whatever you use, iSimply or Investor Fuse. This is where we actually find our buyers. We go to investorbase.com. There's a link in the description below, and here you'll find, let's say I type in an address right in here. Let's say, for example, I typed 614 South Vermont Avenue in Royal Oak, Michigan, and the last 9 days, all the buyers that are around that area, and then I end up clicking on that buyer, ultimately skip tracing the information of that buyer, and then I go and put the information in the sheet, end up calling the buyer, and then making a relationship because this buyer just purchased in the last 9 days or closed on a deal in the last 9 days. So it might be smart to actually call this buyer to see if this person is willing to go into a flip. For example, right here, you see this was a flip. Right here was a flip. Right here is one flip, and this is depending obviously in the property that I have. Obviously, depending on where you are in the county, the city, you would just do comps differently, right? It seems like the closest comps that are for this property are in here. This one, it seems like it was a buy and hold, so I'm assuming for rental. Here, for example, which is Royal Oak, right next to this highway right here, is different comps for sure. So it's not like it helps, but at least we have this one's right in there. Or you can also check on the last 6 months to see if it has any other type of changes as well. End up adding it to the buyer list here in Investor Base, and then just skip tracing and getting all the information of that buyer. Whenever you click on a buyer, for instance, let's say right in here, so you're able to see more information of that specific buyer itself. So here, for example, this buyer right here, Frank Mastroianni, I don't want to show all his information, so I'm gonna blur this out. But you can see the history of that buyer itself, and then just put it into your buyers list and so on, right? So this is a very simple system that you can actually follow and put in any CRM that you want.
The scaling death spiral. This next mistake is counterintuitive because it looks like success from the outside, but it's actually the fastest way to go broke. Scaling before you prove profitability. I see this all the time. Wholesalers hire 10 cold callers or expand to 3 new markets before they've proven their unit economics work. Here's my rule. You need 3 consecutive profitable months at your current cost per deal and assignment fee average before you scale anything. Scaling too early converts revenue growth into higher burn rate, not higher profit. You end up with more leads, more contracts, more headaches, but less money in the bank. The final 4 cash flow killers are what separate the wholesalers who build million-dollar businesses from those who flame out after their first good month. The market channel. Mismatch. You could have the perfect system, but if you're using the wrong marketing channel in the wrong market, you're setting money on fire. Not every market matches every channel. In metro areas, PPC and SEO convert better because there's higher distress visibility. In secondary and tertiary markets, SMS and cold calling still work because you have lower cost per lead but thinner buyer pools. In rural markets, you might get cheap leads, but good luck finding buyers. Low cost per lead becomes a Dispo nightmare. I had a client spending $15,000 a month on Facebook ads in a rural market, getting tons of leads, but couldn't move contracts. We switched them to a metro market with the same budget, and they went from 1 deal per month to 5. The compliance blind spot. 1 lawsuit can wipe out an entire quarter of profit, and most wholesalers are walking legal minefields without even knowing it. TCPA and DNC fines run $500 to $1,500 per violation. Some states treat wholesaling as illegal brokering without proper licensure. Novation paperwork errors can get your deals rescinded. I know a wholesaler who got hit with a $50,000 TCPA fine that destroyed 6 months of profit. Compliance costs way less than defense. The dashboard disaster. Most wholesalers run their business on gut feel instead of data, and it's like flying a plane with no instruments. You need daily tracking of leads, contacts, appointments, offers, contracts, and closings. Weekly tracking of cost per lead, cost per appointment, offer percentage, contract percentage, close percentage, average fee, cost per deal, and cash conversion cycle. If a rep is 30% under target for 2 weeks, you coach or cut. Without scorecards, inefficiency compounds silently until your bank account is empty. But the final killer is the one that destroys even successful wholesalers. The founder fatigue trap. Many wholesaling business owners burn out doing 15-an-hour tasks instead of building systems that run without them. Here's the hiring ladder that saves your sanity. Admin VA, then lead manager, then closer, then marketing tech, then sales manager. Buy back your time at each stage. Your role as the founder is to design systems and manage capital, not chase sellers or update CRMs. Hustle builds you a job, systems build you a business. Now here's what ties all of this together. Wholesalers don't go broke because there are no deals. They go broke because they don't track unit economics, they scale before proving fit, they starve during the cash conversion cycle, and they fail to monetize deals with multiple offers. Fix the math, respect the cycle, add more ways to say yes, and build a disposition mode. Do that, and the same leads you're already paying for will finally turn into consistent profit. Look, I just gave you the 10 cash flow killers that destroy 80% of wholesaling businesses. But knowing the problems and fixing them are 2 different things. If you want my team to audit your current wholesaling business and show you exactly which of these 10 killers is bleeding you dry, plus give you the step-by-step 90-day turnaround plan to fix it, click the link in the description. We'll analyze your unit economics, review your offer strategies, and build you a custom action plan to turn your wholesaling business into a predictable cash flowing machine. But this is only for serious wholesalers who are ready to stop playing business and start building one. The link is in the description. I'll see you on the call.